Malcolm, jump on this because I think here's something. I would like to pay attention to the secondary characteristics. I like to watch how people move, what they're doing with their arms or hands, whatever. I got the sense that Putin was in heaven yesterday, that he had a guy with him under his captivity. He was smirking as if he owned the guy. And I watched Trump. I don't know what he was like. Trump seemed to be, unfortunately, comfortable in the role of captive. I don't know how to explain it. You're the expert.
Well, it's not Stockholm Syndrome. Let me tell you, I can tell you Vladimir Putin is a human intelligence officer. He is a person who manipulated people to betray their country, to go from East Germany into West Germany, to steal technology as a member of the KGB. He is a former communist, brought up that way throughout his life, and is now the president of Russia. The only thing that I didn't see yesterday was exactly how Putin could not move his fingers and make Donald Trump marionette around the stage. Because that's what I saw. We saw a man who was being handled. And that's a professional term. And I think we can start using that term a little less rhetorically now. I don't think that Donald Trump did anything more than express the admiration and love and bromance that he has for Vladimir Putin that he has told us for years now that he has. The problem here is that he came off as not the president of the United States, but as a representative of the Russian Federation, almost like a Russian vice president. And John Brennan, the CIA director, who I admire greatly, used the word treasonous. I don't think we should use that term, but we can use alternate loyalty.
Yeah, well, I couldn't believe it. I'll get later in the show. I'll get to it. But for Putin, a communist all his life, to dare talk about Lee Harvey Oswald killing Kennedy as if they didn't have anything to do with it. An extraordinary thing to bring up a communist shooting of an American president and saying it was our fault. Anyway, the Washington Post is reporting that ahead of the meeting, staffers provided Trump with some 100 pages of briefing materials aimed at laying out a tough posture toward Putin. But the president ignored most of it. According to a person familiar with the deliberations, quote, Trump's remarks were very much counter to the plan. The plan. According to a report in Axios, one of Trump's former national security officials said, this is a total effing disgrace. The president has lost his mind. The New York Times further reports that aboard Air Force One back to Washington, Mr. Trump's mood grew foul as the breadth of the critical reactions became clear. Aides steered clear of the front of the plane to avoid being tapped for a venting session with Mr. Trump. It was against this backdrop that the president's daily intelligence briefing this morning was removed without explanation from his schedule, according to the NBC. Let me get back to Ashley. How did it unfold today that Trump began to realize that he was cornered, that he had blown it yesterday, at least in the short term?
So the president was upset flying back even yesterday on Air Force One with the blanket negative coverage. At that point, he wasn't upset with the summit, but he didn't like how it was being covered, and he was kind of surprised and shocked and then again frustrated by even some of his traditional Republican allies, including Fox News, being quite critical of him. One thing I'm told is that there was a tweet yesterday by Newt Gingrich, who is someone who is a staunch ally, who always defends this president, even criticizing him, and that really rattled Trump. So this morning, again, he sort of didn't provide that much clarity to his aides at first, which kind of froze everyone. So you had a situation where the White House communications office didn't quite know what message to push out. You had negative cable news coverage and no Trump surrogate supporting him on air. And finally, with some nudging by aides, the president did, under what looked like a bit of duress, arms crossed, sort of reading verbatim, read that statement, although, as you pointed out earlier in the show, he did make his own notations and tweaks and flourishes in the margin.
Well, in contrast to the president, Senate Majority Leader, to make your point, Leader Mitch McConnell said today that Congress is united in standing behind NATO and offered a message of warning to Russia. This is Mitch McConnell here.
So make no mistake about it, I would say to our friends in Europe, we understand the Russian threat. And I think that is the widespread view here in the United States Senate among members of both parties. There's a possibility that we may well take up legislation related to this. In the meantime, I think the Russians need to know that there are a lot of us who fully understand what happened in 2016, and it really better not happen again in 2018.
You know, Michael, I would say in all fairness and with some respect that Michael, that Mitch McConnell's an iron-butt Republican. He doesn't move according to fashion. He stays where he is. It seems to me that he should be an anchor of thought for Trump to realize he's blowing his constituency, falling in love publicly with Putin. Why would any Republican want to be seen as pals with Putin?
Well, it's because that's what's been brought into the party, and in large measure, everyone's kind of fallen in line with that. You know, you look at the polls that now show that that Putin is growing in popularity among Republican circles.
Yeah, but relatively, 25% compared to 60-some%. I know it's growing,
but Chris, it was 16. And now it's 25, so it's gone up almost 10 points, and that's the anchor for Trump. You're right. Mitch McConnell, of all the leaders in the House and the Senate, is that one anchor that the president should be listening to. But as we saw with the piece of paper, even when you give him the script to save his behind, he's going to write something in the margins, and it's going to take it someplace it doesn't need to go.
Thank you. And by the way, it's disappearing ink, and we all know that. 2 days from now, he'll be back where he wants to be with Putin. Thank you, Ashley Parker. Great reporting by the Post again. Michael Steele, sir, thank you for your inside view of the Republican Party, which I think you're still a member of, and Malcolm Nance for the knowledge of the spook world. The spy world, which I got to tell you is we're getting increasingly into a world of spies, i.e. Putin. We got to understand these guys. They don't speak the truth. They look like they're sort of telling the truth, and you got to be really stupid to believe it is the truth.